AWP 2022 season. Our theme this year, whoever controls Africa runs the world. Therefore, it follows an Africa that controls Africa will be the next economic superpower after China and the US. Today's topic, Brand Africa. This is session 6. And last week, Thursday, we had our first Zoom session discussion where we had Dr. Mungai Line as guest, brilliant guy. And our discussion then was to do with what will it take therefore for Africa to actually succeed in being the next economic superpower after China. The main message I took from that discussion or conversation with Dr. Mungai and those who were in the audience was that Africa's projected population growth rates alone, although that's not necessarily the main driving factor, but it's so significant that by the middle of the century, it won't matter whether Africa is succeeding or it's failing to grow its economy. Africa's population will have significant impact on the rest of the world. By the end of the century, around about 2100, 2 out of every 5 human beings will be African. So you can just see the potential impact there. So let me just say, though, that I asked Dr. Mungai what would be his 3 most important preconditions for Africa to have, let's say, an impressive economic growth rate. The first one for him was culture. Culture is in the way of doing things, everything from economic governance to political governance to the environment, technology, society, family, and so on. The second for him was the issue of human resources development. And then thirdly, technology. So what we then did in the conversation was to take the first 2, that is the culture and the human resources development, and discuss population as the precursor for that. And I just want to summarize what we came up with. We had given some basic facts, starting with the projected population for Africa by 2050 will be something close to 2.4 billion, at which point 1 out of every 5 human beings will be African. So the thing is, if Africa's economy was to grow at similar rates that China grew over the last 35 years, those rates averaged almost 14%. I mean, they were ranging 12 to beyond 16%. Now, if Africa was to grow at those rates, then by 2050, the GDP per capita for Africa will be $70,000 US, compared to 55,000 for the United States today. So we then looked at other projections, which would say, we asked the question, so Africa is not likely to grow at the rates China is going to grow, but if it was to grow at less than 50% average rates of China, let's just put it at 6%. Well, guess what? At 6% average, Africa will still be the largest economy in the world just after the middle of the century, by 2055. So it means that it really doesn't matter. With mediocre growth rates, Africa will be the largest economy in this world pretty much in the middle of the century. So today, I then chose to talk about Brand Africa, an introductory session to the issue of Brand Africa, because When I get a little bit depressed about Africa, which is not often, it is only because I worry that Africans are going to sleepwalk into the largest economy into the world and not be aware of it. That's why I always say, let's look at the facts. Facts matter. Because when you look at facts in detail, they help us in a couple of ways at least. One, it helps to bring more reality to the facts. So you adjust your emotions and expectations, and especially assumptions. So let me repeat again that even with pessimistic economic growth rates, 4%, 5%, Africa will still be the largest economy in the world before the end of the century. So take all the 55 African countries, therefore. If these 55 countries succeed only 20% on integration into a single economic bloc, never mind one country, just single economic bloc as envisaged through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. If Africans only succeed 20% of that integration over the next few decades, its economic growth rates will be phenomenal. So let's go to the facts. Here are some initial facts about Brand Africa. Please permit me to be quite personal in introducing these facts so that I can drive home my point. Fact number one, personal. I get paid professional fees that are probably 50 to 60% of a far less experienced, a far less qualified Western professional. And I discovered this, quite early on in my own career. And when I have interrogated, why would you pay somebody who is not? I'm the team leader here of the professionals. And I can say this, in my own professional areas of expertise, land governance, tenure, food security issues, agricultural policy and stuff like that, irrigation. I am just as good as any in the world, but I still get paid less than a professional who is less qualified just because they come from a Western country. Why? They always say, well, it's the market. You see, when we do our market surveys, we find an equivalent person in the United States would have to be paid double. In Africa, we can pay for the same services for less. Well, I'm telling you now, it's not the market, it's the brand. It's the African brand. I am carrying a brand that is depreciated. So in as much as I may have many issues with Africa, I still need a brand that will carry me through and carry the value that I have. So fact number one. Fact number two, there's an assumption carried by the so-called international community that Africa is perpetually poor. It's going to be poor forever. So let us not assist them in creating wealth. Rather, let's focus on poverty alleviation, poverty reduction. For the last 4 decades, name any significant international organization working in Africa. Poverty reduction. Who wants poverty reduction? Africans need wealth creation. That's what should be happening. But no. Because you're going to be poor forever, we just alleviate the symptoms, poverty reduction. That's part of the brand that is to go. Third, due to colonial trauma, in my opinion, Africans, more than any other ethnic group inadvertently or unknowingly depreciate the brand Africa. Because it happens like, in fact, let me just do a quick comparison between the traditional way of branding ourselves and the Western way of branding ourselves. In the traditional way, the biggest brands were clan, family clans, like Ame Moyo, Moyo Ndizo. You have Janga Manjas, you have so many clans on the continent. I have never come across any single individual who trashes their own traditional brand or tries to appease another traditional brand. I can respect the Shumba or lion, but I'm still a Moyo. I'm going to uphold it no matter what. So protecting one's brand does not mean there's no self-criticism, but being able to distinguish between self-criticism and self-trashing of a brand is something that has been damaged when it comes to the way we brand ourselves, especially by individual country. So these countries are really the remnants of the colonial order. They were never truly part of our original brand. We're learning how to identify with these new brands. And each time we're a little bit disillusioned with whatever we have in our country, we contribute to brutalizing our own brand. Then, when we are discriminated against down the road, paid less, valued less, we complain of discrimination. And yet we are the ones who are contributing to trashing our own brands. So it's something that I'll come back to later. In summary, there's a difference between commitment to the brand as opposed to the individual. So those who, I'm just saying, protect the brand. You can trash individuals, but the brand must remain strong. The fifth and last point I'd like to bring on Brand Africa is that when it comes to governance on the continent, although we still have huge challenges, don't get me wrong, but the road we have traveled towards improved governance systems, political stability is huge, even by Western standards. Let me give you a simple statistic, once again, to show the difference between reality on the ground, facts matter, as opposed to emotions and assumptions. Would you have guessed that since the year 2015, Africa has experienced more than 30 leadership changes in government? 30 since 2015. Okay. Highlighting the continent-wide push towards greater accountability and stability and democracy. But when people talk generally about governance in Africa, it's just one trashed brand. No acknowledgement of the fact that we are making huge strides. So those are the facts I want to put on the table. And please be back for some of the analysis I would like to put on those facts. See you shortly. So let's put a bit of analysis to this Brand Africa. The first thing I'd like to focus on is that we are selling Africa or Brand Africa at a lower than its true value. Let me give you an example of something I learned in terms of selling one's brand for its correct value. So way back, maybe a decade ago, I remember visiting Santa Fe in the United States, New Mexico. It's actually the art capital of the world, especially when it comes to Native American art, although other arts are coming in. And there was a group of African artists who were visiting from about 7 or so African countries. And one of the most significant conversations I had was when the Native Americans were saying to the African artists, you know, when you sell your art, you must learn something from us. We Native Americans used to make the same mistake that we see you making. When we visited you in Africa, we saw you making the same mistake of undervaluing your art. So what happens is you see a tourist or a potential buyer, what do? You beg, oh, please just buy this one. This is the last one. Or my children don't have anything to eat. Oh, I need, or it's almost end of day. I haven't made a single sale. I just need money for the bus fare. And so begging the customer to buy your work of art that you put your heart and soul in. The Native Americans were telling the African artists, stop that. What you do is you display your art, put a price on it, and that's it. If a tourist or a buyer comes along and they would wish to pay less, so maybe they offer you, you're asking for $500 and they're offering you $200 or whatever it is, well, the usual thing is to thank them very much for the offer and say, but you know what? I can recommend to you other artists and other places where you could probably find what you're looking for $200. This piece is going for $500. And I'm sure it's way above your capacity to pay. So it's okay. You will find something to suit your pocket. Thank you very much. Okay. So don't beg anybody. Those who truly value the art the same way you value it will pay the right price. There's nothing with a true value. It's what value you internally give and what the buyer gives. You're looking for somebody who matches your own internal valuation of your product. That's what you're looking for. And, you know, just to take that example a bit further, I mean, I remember this woman from South Africa, and she was selling Ndebele art. And guess what? The advisors had given her some guideline for pricing her products. Fortunately for her, they had given her the guideline in rand. So this would be 200 rand, 500 rand, and so on. But she displayed her goods and used the right numbers, but converted to dollars. She was asking for dollars. Instead of the recommended 200 rands, she was asking for $200. Instead of the recommended 700 rand, she was asking for $700. And guess what? She was sold out before those who were undervaluing their products. She hadn't planned it, but there it is. So what I'm asking for, I think, is just to say, Africans, know when to uphold the brand so that you don't even shoot yourself in the foot trying to impress somebody. Second issue I'd like to put on the table on the analysis is exactly this capacity to distinguish self-criticism from self-depreciation, what I called shooting oneself in the foot. I mean, and this applies to all of us in Africa. It applies to those in power in government, those in the opposition parties trying to get in government, those NGOs trying to scratch a living by helping the disadvantaged groups, those in business. We're all trying to impress somebody external by trashing somebody or trashing the other, hoping then that somehow we will be the exception and be rewarded for that. Guess what? Self-sabotage. That's what I mean. It doesn't get you what you want in the long run. So it's the brand. Hello, it's the brand. Okay, not the individual. I give the same advice to my sons and daughters, grandchildren. Protect the Rukuni brand. That's all you have. So I am definitely not the best father or grandfather in the world. I never pretend to be or try to be. It's just me. I just try my best. Now, don't try to be the best, by the way. Just try to do your best, because there's no such a thing as the best. You just try your best. But if you go around, especially my daughters, I say you go around and to impress your boyfriend or your boyfriend's family, oh, my dad is the worst, my brothers are hopeless, fine, you trash your own family because you love this guy. One day you're going to fight. It's inevitable in a relationship, in a family, and you're going to complain about him, and he's going to turn around to you and say, but look who is criticizing me. Didn't you tell me you come from a trash family? Your dad is this, your mother is that, your brothers are... Protect the brand. Just tell your husband or your wife, oh, my family is great. Even if you fight when you get home. Protect the brand is the point, so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot and depreciate your own value. Okay, know when to criticize and when to defend. And I'll give you typical examples. Look at the Americans. I mean, my first time to actually live for a little while in the United States, I could not believe the extent to which an average American hates their own government. They hate their own government with so much gusto. They loathe their government. But you'll never hear them trash the American brand. They will never fly overseas and trash the US of A brand. They will trash individuals, not the brand. But back home, they hate the system. Okay, hello, it's the brand, not the individuals. Same with the Europeans. They also hate each other like nobody's business. But they protect the European brand like nobody's, like hell. I mean, look, they're fighting all the time. They've created 2 world wars. They could create a 3rd one. But when it comes to defending the European brand, wow, they're together. So we have a lot to learn from there as Africans. That's why I say, the Africa Union idea, which we're going to come to in another session, in terms of where the branding issue may come in. But Africa, I think, is the brand. Africa will always be a far superior brand than individually branded African countries, because the individual countries are still struggling to shake off the colonial trauma in the way what Dr. Mungai was saying, culture, way of working, way of doing things, how all the systems are corrupted one way or another, because we never got rid of the colonial trauma completely. And as a result, we have a love-hate relationship with our own society. So those brands will take forever to clean up. Africa, it's simple. Like I said, we become committed to our brands on some issues. It's getting better. I know that when the Africa Cup of Nations is on, I mean, you're just behind your own country big time. But on other issues, people wouldn't care, So I would say that Africa is the brand, because for every African, 1.3 billion Africans, It's just a birthright, including those in diaspora, even born in diaspora. If you're a Black African origin or originated person, it's your birthright. No one can take that away from you. They can take your citizenship away of individual countries using colonial laws, but they cannot take away the African birthright. So let's protect and nurture brand Africa. So thanks so much for listening to this analysis. I'll be back shortly with it. In conclusion, I'd like to take us back to our theme and how the branding issue comes in, because whoever controls Africa runs the world. Now, we have argued in this session and the previous one that African society by population alone will be the most dominant society in the world. By 2050, 1 in every 5 human beings will be African. By the end of the century, we get into 2100, every 2 out of 5 human beings will be African. So if an average African is 40%, or rather an average human being is 40% African, what do you think? I mean, that means the African brand will be carried around far deeper. So I brought this topic forward this time because we Africans may not be analyzing how soon this will happen. I'm pushing for a certain level of awakening where we realize that even with mediocre performance of the economy, growing at 5-6%, Africa will be the largest economy by the middle of the century or just after the middle of the century. So there's no need for kind of superstar economic performance even to be the largest economy. And we better start protecting this brand for obvious reasons, but more importantly for economic reasons, which I'll go to in a minute. So let's ask the usual question. Whoever controls Africa runs the world. So whoever controls brand Africa today, therefore, and if Africans can figure that out, we start mapping out how to grow and protect this brand. The economic and financial rewards of a super brand are enormous and will accelerate the pace of Africa's economic growth significantly. Why? Because you don't purchase products. You know, this is the thing that Africans need to understand. You don't buy products. You buy culture. You buy a brand. You buy an idea. So when one goes to purchase junk food from a highly branded entity, one is paying 3-4 times more than you'd pay for a healthier food, and maybe more of it. But you're going to buy this culture. You want to be part of this scene. You want to be seen as, I'm there too. So branding is everything. So just imagine, brand Africa gets to the level of where USA brand is today. What that means is we can sell anything to anyone in the whole world. They'll just say it's African, oh, this is the best designed shirts, it's the best architecture, it's the best gaming, it's the best. Hello, is the brand that provides value. Economic growth rates of some of these countries is because they have mega brands. You buy Gucci, but it's just a handbag. Africans will be able to reach that level. So once again, please, whoever controls Africa runs the world. And the sooner Africa actually controls its own resources. It will be the next economic superpower after USA and China. So Africa, on today's issue, that understands brand Africa and take it to the next level. For the economy of Africa, that would be magical. As I say, a super Africa brand means across all value chains, from foods to fashion, name it, technology, we'll be able to sell our products much more easily and much more quickly, and our economies will grow faster. We will be coming back, therefore, with additional sessions just on this branding issue, and look forward to seeing you again at the next session. Thank you very much. So my name is Mandi Rukuni. I authored this book, Being African, which I'm recommending to you. You stand a chance of winning a copy of this book in the DWP competitions. But I wrote this book primarily because we Africans often confuse Westernization with modernization. So this book goes through what it takes for us to modernize Africa using our heritage rather than Westernizing it. So Wunu, Botu, Ubuntu, Udugu is what this book is about. I recommend it to you highly, and those who want the practical side of how to succeed using heritage values, you can go to the small handbook of African Pathways to Success. Look forward to you participating in the competition. Thank you.
Stand a chance to win a copy of the book, Being African, or the booklet, African Pathways to Success, by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Dialogue with Prof Mandi Rukuni, and leaving a comment on one of our recent videos. You can also like our Facebook page and comment on a recent post. If you're on Instagram, follow the profile Prof Mandi Rukuni and leave a comment on a recent post as well. A random participant will be chosen at the end of the month and will be contacted and given the book.